Okay, so in this tutorial I'm going to show everybody how I make my ganache for sculpting. I've got my proportions worked out to be perfect for what I do. A lot of the time with 3D cakes as well. After you've ganached them, you have to make sure that your ganache is hard. If you're wanting to sculpt any sort of detail on top of it with your modelling chocolate, you can't have soft ganache. Whereas if you're doing maybe a more traditional cake, I suppose it doesn't really matter as much. I don't do those sorts of cakes, so I'm not an expert in that department. The chocolate that I've had, it's been quite a bit of a row throughout my years of doing cakes to find the right chocolate. I found when I was starting out, I would split chocolate constantly, and it just drove me insane. But I found the chocolate that I use is Nestle Royal, and it's a dark chocolate, and I buy that in bulk in 15 kilos, and I find that for me is the best chocolate for ganache. It sets up nice and hard, it's beautiful to work with, and it tastes beautiful as well. I don't use this inside my cakes. I use more of a Swiss chocolate inside my cakes. I prefer to keep this one just for the ganache only. Like any chocolate, you can flavour it and do whatever you want with it. As for cream, I know there's, again, lots of people, it's just a personal preference. I like to use Paul's Pure Cream. It has no additives, no thickeners, no anything in it. And it's the one I stick with because I actually use it at home. We eat it and use it on things at home. So Paul's is my favourite brand of cream. As for your weights and measures with ganache, it depends on how hard you want the ganache to set, and again, like the modelling chocolate, it depends on what climate you live in. We live in Queensland, it's hot here, so I tend to just measure out, I like to use up the whole tub of cream, so there's 600 mils in that one, so I like to do 2 kilos of chocolate to 600 mils of cream. So today I only require a small amount of ganache, so what I'm going to do is just put the kilo in. So first of all, I've got a big bowl. And I just measure out a kilo of chocolate. And this is what the chocolate looks like. It's already in small pieces. Got chocolate in there, and so no 1 kilo doesn't really go far, but the cake that I'm doing this for is not a big cake, it's a smaller one, so I'm not going to waste that. So I will use 300 mils of cream, and I'll show you exactly how I do that. I've cranked it up to a 3, and I swear this thing has a mind of its own, so we'll just... The thing with the point I want to make, I guess, I never put this on the stove and leave it, because once you overboil it, that's when you find it can split your chocolate. I like to get it to see, I don't know if you could see there, yeah you can. There's just a bit of steam coming out now. I want to try and grab it before it boils, so I don't know what this stage of heating is called, but it's just where it's just a part before it's boiled. So now it's starting to get a lot of steam coming off it, but it's not boiling. The other thing with the ganache, get a good quality saucepan like this one. I'm not sure what brand it is, but it was really expensive. But it's the only saucepan that I own because I only need one. And it's brilliant. Alright, so we're ready to pour over now. Okay, so try and pour as evenly as possible over the top, and you'll see why in a minute. And that's it there. So just give it a bit of a shake. Looks like a lot of chocolate, but it will all work in there. So what I do with my chocolate, rather than just get straight in and start stirring it, I like to just let it sit. I'll let it sit for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. Just let it sit, and then I find when I come back, I only need to just give it minimal stirring, and sometimes I don't need the microwave, but we'll see how we go today. So I've let that sit. That's been about 10 minutes. I've just got sort of time constraints today, so I can't let it sit for much longer. So you'll find a lot of it's already melted. I'll just keep gently stirring it. You want to be gentle with your chocolate, even though this sort of chocolate's really good. It's pretty tough. Still, it's not. That's another thing that I was going to say with the chocolate. If you want to know the price, that chocolate of mine there is $180 for 15 kilos. And you know, that's only one of the ingredients that we use in cakes, and this is why I try and hit home that we just, cake makers should not be making cheap cakes. It's still pretty lumpy. I'm thinking I'm going to need a microwave for this. So I'm thinking I might put that in for a burst of 30. So that's 30 seconds again, and I've noticed that's melted some of that chocolate in. It's all about using your muscles and being patient. Being patient. That's probably the biggest thing. Sometimes I wish my dog Barnaby had opposable thumbs and I'd get him to stir it for me while I did something else. So I'm thinking another 30 seconds. How many is that? Yeah, so that's only one lot so far. Okay, that's another 30 seconds. And I think this is probably enough. There might be one more small burst, but you're playing with fire. The more you put it in the microwave, the more risk you have of overheating and splitting it. I don't think I'll do any more with this. I think a bit of arm power and patience is going to pay off. Beautiful, absolute beautiful, this chocolate. I can't recommend it enough. Beautiful. So you just do the same as you do with when you're making modelling chocolate. You pick it up, you just look at the flow, how it flows off the spoon. Are there any lumps in it? Again, it doesn't matter so much if you have a few lumps, but it is annoying when you're trying to smooth on ganache and you have lumps and you have to pick them out and go over what you've done again. It just wastes time. You're better off just spending the time making it properly and saving yourself the hassle later. Okay, so that's all done. The next thing I need to do, or the last thing I need to do, is put it in a container. I prefer to use these Pyrex bowls. They're pretty cheap. You can get them from Kmart. I'm just one of those people that's a bit paranoid about storing things in plastic, that's all. So I just pour the ganache in there. I'll just let it sit for a little bit to cool down. I'll let it sit to cool down before I cover it up because I don't want any sort of condensation on the top of the lid. I don't want any water in there. Beautiful. So just let that sit for a bit, pop it in the fridge, and tomorrow it will be ready to use on the next cake that I'm doing.